So here's another episode of What's in Your Garage, and I'm up here in the leafy suburbs of northern Sydney, and Club Secretary Simon Strauss has very kindly offered to show us this classic old Mercedes. Tell me, Simon, what model Mercedes is this?
Well, this is a W121, it's a 190 SL. It's from 1962. And in fact is the original baby brother to the Gullwing, which was launched in 1954.
Wow, so this is a direct descendant.
Well, we like to think of it as a direct descendant, but in fact what happened in 1953-4 was that our friend Max Hoffman in the US requested 1,000 Gullwings and said he could sell them in the US, so Mercedes-Benz did that. And then he turned around and said, oh, but now give me the convertible version. And of course at that stage they couldn't actually engineer a roadster. So they very, very quickly brought up a prototype based on the Ponton, the 180, using its basic frame, shortened it and developed this car, which is really a Gullwing look-alike, although very, very different in both frame and engine.
Right. Now I know a lot of people spend a lot of time researching and looking at cars before they make their purchase, and this has got rather a special introduction to you, hasn't it, Simon? How did you originally find and purchase this vehicle?
Well, yes, it's a bit of a story. The short story was that I put a proxy bid on a car in the UK. It was a Coy's auction at Lords of London, and as a proxy bid I put it at the bottom end of the expected range, not expecting to win. Got home from holidays in Fiji and there was a fax on the machine, as there were still faxes 10 years ago. Dear sir, congratulations, please remit funds. Then I had to tell the missus.
So you hadn't seen the car?
No,
in the flesh, so to speak? No,
indeed. I'd seen a couple of pictures and I'd taken their word that it was Concours condition, which it wasn't quite, which is probably why my bid was the winning bid.
So the car was then shipped out to you here in Australia?
It was indeed. It was shipped out, and I did actually manage to drive it home from the terminal where it was shipped to after a little bit of help from the NRMA. So I did manage to drive it home, and it's had TLC ever since to bring it to the condition that it's in today.
Well, it certainly looks stunning. And what have you had to do to it?
Well, initially it was things like brake maintenance and a couple of other fundamentals that were important. There was actually a little bit of rust to sort out in the car. And the main thing which wasn't Concours was the fact that it had, in fact, Delorto carburetors on, which Delorto's the Italian version of Weber's. So it was about a 3-year project to find Solexes, the air cleaner and all of the paraphernalia to actually restore that element of the car back to original. Right.
And what about the interior?
I had a major project there on the radio. Somebody at some point, probably in the late 70s, had cut quite a big hole in the dash and put a lovely Sony in there with a cassette in it. And to restore that, I managed to source an original radio. There was some paperwork which talked about Blaupunkt. I managed to source a Blaupunkt from that period for this car from a radio museum in Germany. So again, a bit of a major minor project, which I think was a combined birthday Christmas present one year.
And we've got 4 on the floor.
We do. Compared to cars at the time, I very much like the look of the Jaguar XK140. The 140 was also launched at the same time as this car in 1954 at the New York Motor Show. And of course the XK had 3 speeds with no synchro first. As usual, the Mercedes was very, very far ahead of the game with 4-speed, all synchro mesh, and it was really very, very drivable car, and still is a drivable car today.
And it says 10,655 on the clock there.
Well, yes, it's been, well...
How many times has that been round?
At least once, and probably a little bit more for the few years that the speedo wasn't working, but we won't talk about that.
And what year was this manufactured?
1962, May 23rd. One of the Mercedes dealers here in Sydney very kindly got me the data card, so we have the manufacture date and all of the original specifications.
Oh, jolly good. Let's have a look inside the boot here and see what's going on. So we've got a bit of Concours presentation going on here. We've got the original toolkit here. A little bit of water damage perhaps. Original brochures. motor magazines. The car in many magazines. And the sales sheet from the original purchase?
Close to it, as close as I could get. Dave Miller actually provided this sales bulletin from about the time he purchased his car. And what's fascinating is that the actual purchase price of these cars was very close, a bit under the median price of a house in Australia at that time, which was about £4,000. You can see here the price of the car up at around £3,300.
Wow. And let's have a look at this information sheet you've got here on the 190 SL Roadster.
So you can see here the build date, as I mentioned before, 62. This car was really in the last throes of production, so the 24,660th car out of the 25,881. 147 sold in Australia. This particular car was actually owned by Chris Evans, who was famous as the BBC drive time commentator and also occasional Top Gear commentator. So this was actually one of his cars. The plates which you may have noticed are actually the original British plates which were issued in Middlesex, hence the MX in 1962.
Wow. Soft top convertible.
Which is the Roadster. They did come both in a coupe without a soft top convertible and also with both. These days for fun the soft top is certainly the preferred. And the hard top, you need somewhere to store it. That's perhaps one of the main challenges with having the hard top as well.
All right.
They do look great though.
Yes, indeed. Particularly if they're two-tone.
Yes, we had Anthony Waring's very lovely
That's right.
car, which won our Concours a couple of times, and also down in Melbourne at Motor Classic, he took out a trophy there as well.
Yes.
And also Sam Sophie's car
That's
also
right,
has a very beautifully restored hardtop as well, the original hardtop on that car.
Beautiful. All right, let's have a look under the bonnet.